The Sony 70 to 350mm f4.5-6.3 is a massive zoom aps-c lens with an equally massive price. But is it worth buying in 2023? Let's find out. This lens has a huge 70 to 350mm zoom, making it one of the longest telephoto aps-c lenses on the market, comparable with the Tamron 70 to 300mm. Of course, there are full-frame telephoto lenses with a much longer range, but at this focal length and aps-c native, the options are limited. So the size of this lens is 77 by 142mm and weighs 625 grams, so pretty beefy. Let's have a bit of a close-up look at the lens. Getting the box out of the way first, you get your standard documentation, extended warranty, stuff like that. And it comes with a rounded plastic lens hood, and then as you can see, the lens is pretty significant in size. The lens is mostly made from plastic with a few metal elements. Here you can see the lens information: Sony E, aperture of 4.5 to 6.3, 70 to 350mm, G lens with OSS optical steady shot. Under the lens cap, the lens element is reasonably large. There's a focus hold button that provides a convenient focus hold option control, and this button can also be customized via the camera's menu, which is really useful if you're not necessarily needing to use the focus hold option. The camera zoom is manual and can only be controlled by physically twisting the barrel and not through the camera's power zoom controls, which is worth bearing in mind. The travel from 70 to 350mm is surprisingly short, which means you can fully extend the barrel very quickly to get to that full zoom range, but it can also lead to getting the exact right focal length a bit tricky, as it just moves between the focal lengths so quickly. The zoom lock switch prevents the lens from extending under its own weight, but frustratingly can't be used to lock the lens at a certain focal length, which I thought it would, and is a small frustration. This lens features manual controls for some of its features. There's an autofocus and manual focus switch for swapping between these two modes. There's also an optical steady shot switch to toggle this option on and off. The focus ring for manual focusing is the smaller of the two rings and has a continuous movement to it. And back under the lens cap, around the lens element, is the lens information. 1.1 meter minimum focus distance, a 67mm filter thread, and again the same info from the side of the lens. If you're enjoying this review, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. It helps me out a lot. Well, this lens is perfect for wildlife and sports and is made for aps-c cameras. The 70 to 350mm is the equivalent of a 5x optical zoom, which is great and means you can get really zoomed in images. Now, because you are so zoomed in, that optical stabilization helps out massively with photos and especially videos, which is vital since a lot of aps-c cameras have no in-body stabilization built in. So if you need an aps-c lens with the longest zoom possible, whether it be for photos or videos, then this is definitely looking like it could be a good option. And if you really need sharp image quality, then this lens really excels. It's remarkably sharp across the entire range of focal lengths and has an impressively fast and accurate autofocus system, even at that most zoomed in range. Has that easily accessible manual focus mode, perfect for those precise setups which you may want for wildlife photography rather than having to jump into the menus every time you want to change to manual focus. You can achieve exceptional out of focus backgrounds, which makes for very professional separation between your photo's foreground and backgrounds. Now, of course, the aperture range of f4.5 to 6.3 means that this isn't going to be the best performer in low light, but that's not really why you would be buying this lens, as it's sharp, with fast autofocus and great for outdoor shooting. The minimum zoom range on this lens is 70mm, means it's totally unsuitable for shooting, say, like this video here. At its most zoomed out, it would be far too zoomed in and wouldn't really be suitable, which is definitely worth bearing in mind if you want a lens for all situations. And of course, it is a big bulky lens, and not very travel friendly, especially with little aps-c cameras. And this translates to the price. It has an RRP of $900, which is more than, well, most aps-c cameras cost for the entire camera. However, it is worth bearing in mind how cheap you might be able to pick one of these up on sale. I got mine probably around 6 weeks ago now for around $500 from Amazon. So well worth looking out for those deals available on this lens. Because of course, being able to pick it up for almost half the price makes it a much more palatable option. So it is definitely worth shopping around for, because I have found it to be an excellent telephoto lens so far. I will leave Amazon links in the description, as it is often at the cheapest there. That's where I picked it up from. And I bought this lens to ultimately replace an older, cheaper telephoto lens I was using, which was the Sony 55-210mm. And I've been blown away, not just by the increase in zoom, but the image quality, the sharpness, and the bokeh, which is the quality of the out of focus backgrounds. This means this lens should definitely be a consideration if you need a telephoto lens. I found it absolutely perfect for stuff like wildlife photography, which I do like to take from time to time, for stuff like taking pictures of birds, which are going to be moving around quite a lot. The image quality is sharp enough, even when fully zoomed in, and the autofocus is fast enough that you can really capture these fleeting moments very well. And with those extra controls, such as being able to swap quickly to manual focus, which means that if you just need to pinpoint that focus that the autofocus would never quite be able to capture, especially if you are just focusing, say, on a leaf waiting for a butterfly or something to land on it, then it is perfect for that kind of situation. It's also going to be great for stuff like photographing local sports teams or pet photography. If you've got a dog running around like crazy and you want to be able to get some nice shots of it, it's going to be great for stuff like that. So yeah, as I've said, I've been really, really impressed with this lens so far. Have you got this lens or another telephoto lens for your aps-c camera? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the channel and dropping a like on the video. But until next time, see ya.